On a 6-card hand for Shadow, Hess on a 7-card Sultai Urza hand.
All right, well, looks like we're ready to go here for round 1. Star City Games Knoxville Modern Open. Holland on your left with Grixis Shadow. Looks like he's going to be on the play.
Mishra's Bobble takes a look at his own top card, maybe setting up for a fetch land here.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you have a fetch land and a shock land, you basically get to choose if you want to keep it or not, if you have a turn 1 play. If you don't have a turn 1 play, you just get to see if you want to keep it or not, and then you just fetch, if you want to shuffle it away. It's a really great way to start the game for sure.
Yeah, it looks like he liked it, so he kept on top after playing Polluted Delta. Go over to Hess. He will shock for Watery Grave to 18, and going to be going to 16 in a second for this Thoughtseize. See what Holland has kept here. Yep. Snapcaster Mage, Fatal Push, Death Shadow, Drown in the Lock, and there's that Watery Grave. So he did have the choice with the bobble.
Yeah, there's 2 copies of Thoughtseize in James Hess's main deck. It's something that's kind of fallen out of favor in these Urza decks. Mostly the black is usually just for the sideboard cards, like Assassin's Trophy, maybe some Thoughtseizes in the board. But James, instead of being super heavy on counter spells, just 2 copies of Cryptic Command, 2 copies of Archmage's Charm, and then those 2 Thoughtseizes. And you'll be able to see the full deck list here just a few minutes when we get the cardboard live up and running. Just make sure to check that out in just a minute.
Death Shadow is going to be the take from Hess, so take the largest potential threat out of the hand. So go back over to Holland. Snapcaster Mage, a bit anemic against these Urza decks. Holland will shock for that Watery Grave to 18. Thought about putting it in tapped. Resolved to take the damage, though.
Yeah, I think that was... so he actually turned all his cards upside down. I don't know if you've seen this methodology whenever you get hit with a discard spell.
Yeah, I have seen and heard about this, yeah.
Yeah.
Put the cards that your opponent knows about face down so you know what they know.
Yeah, but you don't know what they don't know. But you do know what they do know. But you don't know what they do know. Or no, you do know what they don't know.
You know what they know, but you don't know what they figured out without deliberately knowing.
Yeah.
Here's a Mishra's Bobble for Hess. Take a look at the top card of Holland's library, and Holland's just going to draw that. Not going to fetch away with that Delta. Plays Bloodstained Mire for turn.
Yep. Going to draw off the Bobble, draw for turn. And Holland here, not really with an ideal Grixis Death Shadow start. No disruption in the early turns, no threats on turn 3. Still at 18 life, but has the capability of fetch shocking down pretty low to be able to cast those shadows.
Here's Astrolabe number 2 for Hess, and then a Mishra's Bobble. Astrolabe coming off a snow-covered island last turn. Flooded Strand is land number 3, and he'll pass.
Now, he can leave that Bobble in play if he so chooses, or he can use it to dig. I believe if Holland doesn't apply any pressure, I'm fine not cracking the Mishra's Bobble, because that extra mana you get sometimes from Urza is a big deal. But if you don't have Urza, it is important to just go ahead and make sure you hit the 4th land for it, or hit it itself.
Land number 4 for Holland is Steam Vents. He'll shock for that to 16. This is territory where things get a little bit scary for the Shadow deck. As you recall, before the Faithless Looting deck, they used to play about 1, maybe 2 copies of that because flooding is such an issue. We'll see if Holland can get a threat online at some point, though. Go back over to Hess. Misty Rainforest will be the land. Shortcut a couple fetches here.
Yeah, now what Hess could do also, if he's casting Urza this turn, he could get Mystic Sanctuary with the 2nd fetch land, put Thoughtseize on top. So next turn he has the ability to Thoughtseize away that Snapcaster Mage, if he so chooses, before it gets any real value. But it all just depends on how he wants to sequence, because he's got plenty of cards in hand.
Double fetch put Hess to 14. He's going to play Mishra's Bobble before using the mana, and here is Urza Lord High Artificer. Holland will drown that in the lock. A bunch of fetch lands in the graveyard, so that looks like a clean counter spell.
Yeah, the fetch lands actually make Drown the Lock significantly better than it would normally be. That's one of the reasons why I love Drown the Lock in Modern. It's this new tool out of Modern Horizons. It's quite good in these Death Shadow decks, even if you only play a couple.
Out of Throne of Eldraine.
Oh, it's out of Throne of Eldraine, excuse me.
Easy to confuse those two sets. Pretty comparable power level.
No comment. No comment. No, but Drown the Lock is one of those cards that seems really pushed, and it's quite good in a format with fetch lands. I was going to say I'm not a huge fan of it in Pioneer just because your opponent's graveyard doesn't get full unless you fill it for them with discard spells and removal and such.
Right, without the fetch lands and all that. So Holland just drew and passed back over to Hess. Going to cast an Emery, Lurker of the Lock, and play a Polluted Delta. Mills over 4 non-artifacts. Another Urza flipped over. Looks like 3 lands otherwise. Holland has a Fatal Push that both players know about. He's fetching end step. See if he wants to shock. He does. Watery Grave will put him to 11.
Now, if you'll notice, last turn when Hess cast Urza, he played Bobble before casting the Urza. In my opinion, has access to Archmage's Charm. Wanted to have the 3rd artifact on the battlefield before casting the Urza. So that he could use that fast mana from Urza to cast the Archmage's Charm to protect it from that Fatal Push.
Well, if he has it, he didn't want to use it, as the Fatal Push does dispatch the Emery. Holland will play land number 5. It's a Scalding Tarn. He has a Snapcaster Mage in hand. Both players know about that, but has not been able to establish a threat.
Yeah, Snap Draw on the Lock's pretty good, though. It's effectively Snap Counterspell or Snap Removal, and that's about as good as it gets for Snapcaster Mage for 2 mana.
Hess cashes in the Bobble, draws for turn. Deploys a Gilded Goose. See if Holland cares about that. Got the food token.
Did you hear that?
There. Hear what?
Like a distinct honking.
I did not.
Oh. Weird.
Polluted Delta, the land for Hess. And here is the Snapcaster Mage on end step. Maybe just going for a push on the Goose?
Yeah, it seems reasonable. Just want to get some pressure on the battlefield. It's like Hess is going to react here. Fetching a 4th mana source. Probably going to see a Cryptic Command if I had to guess.
Yeah, it is mana source number 4.
He has a Watery Grave, a Delta, and 2 Snow Islands.
Actually, a shock for a breeding pool here.
Don't like that. You have a couple Astrolabes. Just don't really want to take damage.
Down to 11 goes Hess. Cryptic Command. Counter something. Probably draw. Here's a Stubborn Denial. There's a fetch land up for Hess. He will respond with that. Goes to 10. A pay for Stubborn Denial strategy. I like the Moxie from Holland here.
Well, I'm not 100% he doesn't have a second Stubborn Denial here.
True, yeah, especially if the hand is double Stubborn Denial. He only has 1 card left over, right? He's got to try to convert them in some way. At some point, you just have to acknowledge that the opponent's draw steps are just better than yours, and you haven't done enough in the early game when you play the Shadow deck. Mystic Sanctuary fetched up. Looks like Thoughtseize being targeted to put on top of the library, but Hess going to decline that. Doesn't really want to draw that against a 1-card hand. And Cryptic Command works. Hess pays for the Stubborn Denial. No second one from Holland.
Classic.
I believe Holland drew yet another land.
This is not good for Shadow. I assume they're going to be packing it in here pretty quickly just because once you lose your foothold on the game, like, it's pretty hard to come back if you're a Shadow player just because your life total is so low. So, like, it's very easy for the opponent to close against you. In this scenario, though, Hess doesn't really have pressure, so it's going to be up to him to find some way to apply that pressure. But Holland here just never really got a foothold in the game proper, you know, just kind of never really played a permanent that stuck other than some lands. Had a bunch of reactive stuff, but Hess still has a handful of cards.
Astrolabe, and then a Thoughtseize for Hess. Holland responds with Snapcaster Mage. The Thoughtseize resolves and sees a Polluted Delta. Hess to 8 off the Thoughtseize.
My guess, targeting Drown in the Lock, just because it allows him to counter the next spell played from Hess, or allows him, if no spell is played, to be able to just use it to kill the Gilded Goose.
Then Drown was the target.
All right, Hess here, down to 8 life. Holland back his way.
Breeding Pool tapped for Hess, and now Holland going to do some fetching, see if he wants to drown that Goose.
Probably does, just to make sure you get full value out of the Snapcaster Mage. Being so low on resources, and the 3 life per turn that the Gilded Goose can create actually invalidates the body of the Snapcaster Mage, so would not be surprised to see the Drown tag the Goose here.
The fetch is for basic Swamp. Holland is 12. Looks like players have communicated that the Goose is getting drowned. It'll make a food token on its way to the bin.
Would you say that the goose is juiced?
I would not.
Okay. Or would the goose is cooked?
Yes,
Okay.
that one I would say.
All right.
Back over to Holland. Draws for turn. Attacks with Snapcaster Mage. Hess to 6. Does still have a couple food tokens. He'll use 1. Goes back to 9. Holland passes.
So it's has that a virtual 12 life here thanks to that food token. Needs to find some way to actually close the game. Has a huge resource advantage with mana, and even on cards in hand, basically, outside the draw set from Holland. But not really a whole lot going on. I'm curious to see if his hand is full of those really powerful reactive elements, but even that Misty Rainforest on the battlefield signifies Mystic Sanctuary number 2, which can go get the Cryptic Command back on top of the deck.
Snapcaster Mage knocks Hess to 7, and Gurmag Angler the follow-up for Holland.
Now this was the key time to do it, because after that Cryptic Command goes back on top, it's going to be really hard to resolve that Gurmag Angler, but it looks like Hess has the Cryptic Command.
Yeah, how about 1 in hand?
Yeah.
Counter draw there. Hess going to think about cracking this Misty Rainforest and end step. Looks like he's considering just untapping, though. He'll crack the food to 10. He'll do that much. Now he will untap and just take a natural draw. What did he find? He found a Gilded Goose.
Yep, that's a fine draw here just because it allows him to basically tread water against the Snapcaster Mage. And Emery, that's a hot pickup. That'll allow for some serious card advantage over the next few turns.
Starts to rebuy those baubles. So Emery's good. We go back to John Holland. Snapcaster Mage versus a lot of resources at this point.
Right.
Tap a 3, it's going to be Dismember on Emery. Cleans that up. That works. Snapcaster Mage attacks. Hess to 8.
Yeah, John here is just keeping up, you know? Like, there's still the looming Mystic Sanctuary off the Misty Rainforest to get back Cryptic Command. But right now, Holland has initiative, you know? He basically just attacks every turn. Hess is forced to effectively spend 4 mana a turn to keep pace so that he doesn't actually get chopped down by the Snapcaster Mage. So it's really going to be on Hess to finally close the game.
So Snapcaster connected. Looks like the Goose made a food and then died somehow. I think Fatal Push was cast by Holland. Hess up to 9 off of the food. And here's a big draw step. Urza, Lord High Artificer. And this one looks like it's going to be good.
That's not good. If you're John Holland, that is not good. That card is outrageously powerful. All right.
Right away, Urza's going spinning.
Well, the deck is majority permanents, but even if you hit a Cryptic Command or an Archmage's Charm, it still cycles and draws a card or 2. So the only really brick here, I believe, is a Metallic Rebuke. No, Aether Spellbomb's not that bad either.
It's a Mock Sapphire with some text. Not seeing a Construct token. Presumably we're waiting on the staff to get the Matthias Hunt there. There it is. Death Shadow picked up from Holland, though at this point it's feeling a little late.
A little too late, if you ask me. Not only does he have the Aether Spellbomb to potentially bounce it, but also just has 2 blockers in the worst case scenario. A lot of ways to cycle, can find ways to actually kill it if he so chooses.
Death Shadow Go is the play. Back over to Hess, untapping with a lot of mana. Remember Urza turning all those Astrolabes and that food token into blue mana sources. It's a Mox Opal there as well.
But he hasn't put Cryptic Command back on top of the deck yet. Curious what the plan is here, but both players agreeing that the top of the library is randomized. So just flipping off the top instead of doing the whole shuffle. Love
Spins into Urza. Second construct entering the battlefield. What do we got? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 8s, I believe.
It's quite large.
Larger than Shadow, I'll tell you that much.
Yep.
And there is an attack. Player's going to confirm the count there. Looks like 8.
Now, I believe Hess has this wrapped up as long as he has the other Mystic Sanctuary in his deck. So you can bounce the Death Shadow, fetch for Cryptic, put it on top, untap, use it to tap Holland's entire side of the battlefield, and then attack for lethal. You can also just like spin Urza multiple times. There's a lot going on here.
So Holland to 4 off the attack. Hess tapping a bunch of mana. Going to use Urza again. Emery. Mill 4. Another Spellbomb.
Oh, no.
Milled the Mystic Sanctuary. I don't know if it's going to matter, but like you said, he had not used the Misty to find that.
Well, now he doesn't have access to that Cryptic, but he can still Spellbomb. Spellbomb is one of those cards that's a little awkward as far as templating is concerned, because you don't actually have to tap it to sacrifice it. You just have to pay a blue and sacrifice it.
So Holland going to fire off a Thoughtseize on the way out the door, just gleaning some information, packs him in. Knows that he can't really get through with the Shadow there. Player's going to game number 2.
All right. Holland down a game, but it's anybody's match.
Yep, definitely a matchup that he has not minded to this point. An Open champion very recently in this format with this deck. We'll see what he has in the sideboard. 2 Damping Sphere, 2 Collective Brutality, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Mystical Dispute, 2 Plague Engineer, an Abrade, another Drown in the Lock, an Engineered Explosives, Kolaghan's Command, and Liliana of the Veil.
I've said this a couple times, but it's wild how the disenchant effects are not very good against the Urza decks. You know, most of their cards generate a permanent. It doesn't necessarily even matter if it's an artifact, but they either draw a card, replace themselves, or create a permanent. So your classic Shatter, Naturalize, these things are not going to be great against the Sultai Urza deck. So I don't love stuff like a Braid coming in. It does have the versatility to kill Emery, Lurker of the Lock, so it may be coming in just for that. I like the other Drown in the Lock. I think that card is exceptional here. Kolaghan's Command, similarly to a Braid, doesn't target a lot of important artifacts, but can kill the Emery, so it might be worthwhile. Also, if you're ever able to snag a Mox Opal, sometimes that's pretty good as well. I like the counter spells, mostly. Mystical Dispute, Disdainful Stroke. I think those are coming in for sure.
Makes a lot of sense. Sideboard for Hess, a bit more streamlined. He has 3 Mystical Dispute, 3 Ashiok Dream Render, 3 Fatal Push, 2 Tireless Tracker, 2 Veil of Summer, and 2 Assassin's Trophy.
Yep, I think the 3 copies of Mystical Dispute are going to be coming in just because this Grixis Death Shadow actually has quite a few blue cards. Now, it doesn't counter Thoughtseize, doesn't counter Death Shadow or Gurmag Angler, and those are 3 of the more important cards in the matchup, but does help him win counter spell wards against Drown in the Lock, does counter Snapcaster Mage, which Holland's version's a little slower than normal. You know, there is some argument for it. I'm not 100% that all 3 are going to come in, maybe like 1 or 2. Just winning a counter war, and if you expect Mystical Disputes from your opponent, sometimes Mystical Dispute is the best counter for a Mystical Dispute, you know.
You know what's a good card to win a counter war?
Veil Summer?
Yeah.
There it is. Veil Summer is exceptional in this matchup. Not only does it stop those counter spells, but also stops Thoughtseize, Fatal Push, Drown in the Lock, etc. Sometimes it just cycles when your opponent casts Death Shadow if you don't have an answer for it, you know. Fatal Push probably coming in as just another answer to Shadow, as well as Assassin's Trophy. I expect Hess to get a lot more interactive after sideboard.
Yep, plenty of tools to do it. We are out here playing Modern in Knoxville this weekend. Plenty more stops on the tour as we're just starting Season 1 here. If you're looking to make future stops or just for a way to play more locally, maybe check out a Star City Games Open trial near you. Get a free entry to an Open if you do take the trial down. You get this exclusive playmat, Hunt, the Fireworm.
You also get our On an Adventure token. We use those in our feature match area to signify when cards are on an adventure, which is kind of nice. It's actually a foil token too, I'm hearing, which is cool.
That is fancy. I love the art on that a lot.
This is Hunt, the Fireworm?
Yes, the Fireworm's name is Hunt, is my understanding.
Yeah, that's what I was told.
That's what Craig Krempels told me, and he's a very serious man.
Wait, are you sure it's not like Hunt the Fireworm, like they got to go hunting for it? Like he was taking it down with that lance.
Craig said what he said very confidently.
Confidence is key.
Yes.
So I've heard.
Check those out on StarCityGames.com/open trial. Sorry. Go to go.starcitygames.com/open trial. Thank you, Rob.
More like rob.robcitygames.rob.
Got him.
The Get Rob monster.
Holland on the play here. Going to open on a couple Street Wraiths to 16. Bloodstained Mire, go. Can't quite get below 13 just yet. No discard spell deployed.
Yeah, but another fetch land will easily turn on. Even a shock land will turn on the Death Shadows.
Tapped Mystic Sanctuary for Hess, and then a Mishra's Bauble, and a Mox Opal. Is there a spell you would Stubborn Denial here?
Mox, always.
Well, it looks like Holland, if he had it, he might be passing on. He's going to be fetching off that Bloodstained Mire, though. See if it's 15 or 13.
Yeah, I wonder. If I'm a Death Shadow player, I'm so excited to be able to get myself to under 13.
13 it is.
I feel like whenever I play against Shadow, they always go like Fetch Shock, Thoughtseize you, turn 2, Thoughtseize, Death Shadow, or Death Shadow plus Stubborn Denial.
I thought you were going a different direction.
Oh, no.
They Thoughtseize you, and then they play Steam Vents tapped.
Well, I was going to say that's starting to look like what Holland is doing. Holland's got the Todd Anderson Death Shadow special, right? Doesn't have the nuts, has whatever the opposite of that is.
Sure. Thought Scour End Step. Looks like Inquisition and Dismember milled over.
Yeah, Thought Scour, it's a reasonable play because it does help turn on Gurmag Angler, but it's never what you want to lead on. You want to lead on Disruption if you can.
There's a Bloodstained Mire, fetches it to 10. If he has the combination of Gurmangler, Stubborn Denial, this could be a good turn.
Or he could just Fetch Shock and play 2 threats.
Double threat would be quite nice.
Yeah, Shadow plus Gurmag here would be excellent.
You want to be careful that it is Shadow Angler. You don't want to walk too hard into an Engineered Explosives.
Yeah. I heard all about that from the Dude Cox story.
I don't know what that means.
Walk hard.
Oh.
Into the explosives.
Right. Cool.
You know,
Fetch for Blood Crypt. Here's Death Shadow. Holland's at 10. I don't know it. I don't like it.
You never seen the John C. Reilly movie?
I both don't know it and don't like it.
It's okay. Never mind. It's like a fake biopic or whatever.
Ooh, either Spellbomb. That's going to get a Stubborn Denial. The Opal was not online, and there's no second land for Hess. So, Spellbomb countered, and things looking pretty good for Holland. He'll shock for Steam Vents down to 8, 5/5 Shadow online now. That cleans up pretty quick.
Yeah. I'm really surprised at the keep from Hess. You know, you can London Mulligan in this format, and keeping a one-lander with Mystic Sanctuary, even with a Mox Opal, not exactly ideal. Can still get out of this, but Holland does have a pretty good start with Death Shadow on 2 with Stubborn Denial backup. Now has a bunch of open mana on 3 with a 5/5 Shadow cranking in.
Shadow lumbers on over, has to 15 off of that hit, and looks like draw, go.
Wow.
He's going to use the Bauble.
Wow.
With no action, you wonder if maybe firing the Bauble off the previous turn might have been the play.
Well, that does turn off the Mox Opal for the foreseeable future. And if he had like a 2-mana artifact or something to play, you know, turning off the Mox Opal is pretty bad.
Sure. He might be looking for 1-mana artifact into Emery. I guess he could cast Emery if he had it, though, so that's probably not that.
No, it's probably 1-mana artifact into a black spell, like a Thoughtseize or something. Or a Fatal Push, yeah. And now he could have also kept a hand that was reliant on those black spells to be interactive, and with the Mox Opal, was hoping he could just turn them on. But for those of you who've played a bit with the Simic Urza deck, it actually doesn't have nearly as many artifacts as you might think, especially not just natural artifacts. Like, it has Gilded Goose and Oko that generate artifacts, but those require green mana up front.
It's like Fetch, Shock, swing for 8, Hess to 7, Gurmag Angler follow up.
Pack 'em up!
Things about wrapped up in Holland's favor at this point as we see Hess take one last draw step.
Yes, Arkham's Astrolabe.
Yikes. No snow mana abound.
There it is. Ooh.
Polluted Delta, though. I don't know if Fetch Shock's going to do it here.
Okay, here's what you can do. Fetch Snow Island. Play Arkham's Astrolabe. Use Arkham's Astrolabe. Cast Gilded Goose. Use Mox Opal. Cast Fatal Push targeting Death Shadow. Holland has nothing. Chump block with Goose. We got a game.
All right. Then what happens?
Holland wins very easily.
Oh.
By having literally any spell.
Sure.
And I mean literally any spell.
All of them play. All right, fetch to 6 for Snow-Covered Island. Astrolabe. There's the Goose. Might be holding on that food token before Metalcraft's online. It's a Drown in the Lock, actually.
You ever tried drowning a goose? It's pretty hard.
Have you actually tried?
No comment. No comment.
I believe
plead the
that
fifth.
it's hard, but it also sounds, deranged.
Honk, honk. I swear, if there is one goose that I would like to drown, it's one from that stupid game.
I love that game, man.
It's good. It's good.
Played through that in one night.
Yeah, it's not very long.
No. All right, so now there's a second goose. That one works, but it gets
GG.
pushed. Pushing a goose might be harder than drowning it.
Okay.
Just flies away. How do you push a goose to death?
You ever tried to use Tragic Slip on like a zombie, right? Because the picture is like pushing it into a grave. It's like, wow, big deal.
It'll just get back out.
It's gonna come back again. That's what it does. Duh.
John Holland even things up here, though.
Yeah, he had Death Shadow on turn 2. Had some pressure.
Smart.
Coupled with that disruption. Now, you'll also see that's a lot of the reasons why these Shadow players have moved away from Snapcaster Mage. It's a little too reactive. Doesn't hit quite as hard as those other threats. John Holland here going for more of like a Death Shadow Classic as opposed to these new like 4-color ones that play Tarmogoyf and Once Upon a Time. So,
over on StarCityGames.com, we invite you to subscribe to StarCityGames.com Premium. It's an absurd value. For $70.99 a month, you get exclusive content over on the website, 5% off sealed products. Remember, we had a new set coming out. Get a discount on your boxes from Theros Beyond Death. 10% off singles for when they finally ban this Urza deck and you play whatever you want. Buy some new cards.
Jeez.
But it's $95 for the booster boxes there. 50% off supplies. It pays for itself.
it does. If you're going to be shopping in the StarCityGames.com store, it just makes sense to have premium because it pays for itself after just a few small purchases. So make sure to subscribe to StarCityGames.com Premium today. It's only $7.99 a month. Not only do you get all this stuff, the exclusive content that we provide featuring writers as prominent as Paulo Vitor Damarosa, Brad Nelson, me.
Yes.
I'm third best somehow. I don't know.
On your own ranking, you're a third
On my
best.
own best, I'm third. Yeah, right. This is me, right? So I'm probably way lower.
That's at go.starcitygames.com /premium. Rob, did I get it right?
Go.starcitygames.com
Nailed it.
/Rob.
You can also check out Sullivan's Satchel.
Oh, yeah.
That's
It's
a
a new
mailbag column by Patrick Sullivan.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot more of those lately, and I quite enjoy them myself.
Your opportunity to get berated by Patrick Sullivan for asking an asinine question. Like we do when we work with him.
Oh, yeah. No nonsense.
Looks like Holland's keeping a 7 here. Hess will mulligan this time. Maybe learned his lesson after game number 2 there.
Well, it does hurt to mulligan against the Thoughtseize Inquisition of Kozilek deck. However, when you have a hand that has Mystic Sanctuary as the only land against a deck that has a bunch of interaction, maybe just try a 6 out, Just give it
try it on.
Just give it a peek.
Just try it on.
Just give it a look. Hess here. Taking a gander at 7 cards. Got to put one back if he keeps. I believe he's keeping.
Yeah, some strain here. It's either which card to put on bottom or do I keep this hand. A lot of things moving around. Looks like 1 going to the bottom. He will keep on 6 on the play here, and we are underway. Misty Rainforest, go. Let's see what John Holland can do. Can he get the early disruption and or early threat? Bloodstained Mire, go. Not feeling like either just yet.
Well, it's rare that you play a threat on one. It involves having multiple street wraiths, like 3 of them, I think. So,
Takes some doing, but it takes considerably less effort to Thoughtseize your opponent.
That's true. But no turn 1 discard here from Holland. Hess doesn't have a great start of his own, though. Just a turn 2 Ether Spellbomb off of a Shock Watery Grave? Question mark?
Well, that's accurate. No question about that.
Maybe he wants to hold on to that Mystic Rainforest for a while to turn on Mystic Sanctuary. Maybe he has a handful of lands.
Looks like Holland will fetch Shock end step down to 17 for Watery Grave of his own.
Or doesn't have another land and wants to just go fetch, pop this Ether Spellbomb this turn just to draw a card to kind of cycle, looking for those Emeries, looking for those Okos.
End step, Holland will Thought Scour himself. 1 card, Mishra's Bauble. 2 cards, Misty Rainforest, and the draw.
I want to go back to the month before Oko was printed and after Hogak was banned.
Me too.
Where I got to Thought Scour my opponent a bunch and cast Into the Story. That was fun.
Yeah, the Sam Black deck.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
It is a nice one.
The original version was a Grixis build. I believe it was from Aspiring Spike. Aspiring Spike? That's it, right?
Aspiring. Not inspiring, that's different.
Aspiring Spike, yeah.
Aspiring is self-serving aspiration, whereas inspiring would mean you encourage other people.
Turn your big brain off for a sec and just let me talk about Magic, please?
Forgive me for trying to...
Educate?
Yeah.
Yeah, how about you commentate?
All right, back to that. Let's Pluto Delta go for John Holland.
And then perhaps I will initiate conversation.
Well, you did the opposite of that with the previous conversation. Looks like just draw, go from Hess. No crack at the fetch land, no crack at the spell bomb, no land, no nothing.
Well, maybe he's got some mystical, or not mystical dispute. Maybe he's got some metallic rebukes.
It could be mystical dispute too.
Yeah. Figuring out the reasoning behind plays is a lot easier when you have perfect information.
I like that part. I like that we can't see the hand.
It makes things a bit more interesting, I'll say that.
I get to watch you sweat a little bit.
Yeah. It's like, imagine watching like an NFL game where you know every play that's about to happen because you can read the like signs from the coaches or whatever.
Boring.
Yeah. Hate that.
Would not watch.
No.
It's like a shock for Watery Grave from Holland to 14 and a pass. Hess with the snow-covered island, another pass, and a Snapcaster Mage end step by Holland, going for that Thought Scour.
I'm going to score some free brownie points on this one.
Yeah.
Ready for this?
Sure.
Director Rob said that's classic Patriots football strategy.
Knowing the plays
Just
for both
knowing
teams.
the plays for both teams. They lost last week. That was great. Get wrecked, old man.
Right. Thought Scour works. Snapcaster Mage is on the battlefield. It's like an Inquisition and a land flipped over. And we go back to John Holland.
Yeah, Hess here just 2 draws that don't really feel like they make a lot of sense. Did mulligan this game, so I feel the pain on this one. Previous game could have definitely mulligan and been in a better shape. I honestly have no idea what's in his hand. Didn't counter Snapcaster Mage with Archmage's Charm. Hasn't countered anything, hasn't killed anything, hasn't sacrificed Ether Spellbomb. I just don't know what's happening.
4 Urzas.
Then sack the Spellbomb and draw a card.
Snapcaster Mage comes across, Hess to 16, Gurmag Angler deployed. It's going to delve most of the graveyard. Holland will tap an extra land to keep that Inquisition down there. And Hess will use the Spellbomb now to bounce the Angler.
That does slow it down quite a bit. And maybe that's what he wanted from the Ether Spellbomb the whole time. Because resetting the Gurmag Angler for that long, like it could take 2 more turns to get online. Although Fetch Land turns it online immediately, so, you know, whatever.
Draw, Ether Spellbomb, go. Still no 4th land for Hess, no exciting action, and the Royal Scion's going to join the party for Holland. Seems like a good one to Mystical Dispute if Hess has been holding on to a counter.
Yeah.
Go ahead and read that one.
Yeah, I don't think he's got a counter spell.
It's a 3-mana Planeswalker, so you probably should counter it if you got it.
Has an Abrupt Decay hanging out.
All right. That basically does it.
Yeah. Now the question, if you're Holland, is do you go for the extra damage or do you loot to make sure you turn on that Gurmag? Gonna go for the loot, which I really like.
Yeah, I like cleaning up the hand. 2 extra points. Not really what the deck's about. Death Shadow, at the end of the game, is usually just attacking you for lethal and covering all the bases.
Right.
Loots away the Angler, plays an island, attacks for 2 as Snapcaster Mage, Hess to 14. Gonna fetch to 13 on the end step.
Yep, my guess, getting that snow-covered forest. Might get a breeding pool, though.
Yeah, breeding pool it is, down to 11.
Oh, actually, it doesn't have a snow-covered forest. That makes sense. It makes a lot more sense.
And Abrupt Decay on the Royal Scions. That's going to work. Can't counter that one. And back over to Hess. See if he can do something exciting. Scalding Tarn and a tap of 3 is Oko. Maybe he's been waiting on Oko with counter backup. The Oko resolves. That's going to make a food.
Maybe he just wanted an artifact on the battlefield when he cast Oko. Maybe that's why I didn't crack that spell bomb for so long. Or he was just waiting to deploy stuff once Holland's shields were down. All of that could be the case for sure.
Yeah, so Holland going to go back to his turn, bobble himself. Takes a look at the top card. No uncracked fetch lands on the battlefield. Perhaps there's one in hand. Wants to do something to either eliminate Hess from the game or take care of this Oko.
It's going to be pretty hard to kill the Oko this turn at 6 loyalty. Just 2 power on the battlefield. Something like John the Lock only attacks creatures once they're on the battlefield.
Snapcaster Mage attacks Oko down to 4. And just to pass. Now that was a long time after using the bobble. I was wondering about this. Holland has seemingly forgot the trigger.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, but it actually happens just so often. Like we watched last week, I think I saw 2, but one was Ross Merrim, who I never expect to miss a bobble trigger, you know.
Oh yeah, I remember that. You're talking about yelling at him. Did you ever get around to that?
No, because the next turn he realized he had missed it and he started doing hand gestures, and I thought, he knows.
All right, that's
he
fair.
Knows.
That's fair. Don't need to beat the guy up too much, even though we do constantly.
Yeah. Love you, Ross.
All right, I believe that the Oko alkified the food, but it should be going to 5 to do that. It was attacked down to 4 last turn. Not a 0 ability as much as I wish it were. So we'll get that corrected. There we go. Oko's to 5. And the elk is attacking.
Yeah, this is a strange attack, if you ask me. Chances are Holland not playing anything signifies either a handful of permission or a handful of Death Shadow or a combination. And attacking Holland down to 11 kind of unlocks all those Death Shadows. And you saw him last turn, he actually discarded a Gurmag Angler when it got bounced by Aether Spellbomb. So turning on those Death Shadows just seems very strange to me.
Yes, the issue definitely comes up if there are multiple. You know, Oko kind of covers 1, but then 2 becomes a problem. Unless he has engineered explosives, of course. But the elk will tie things up, 11 life for both players. And end step, we see a Culligan's Command from John Holland.
Yeah, and is leaving open a blue mana for Stubborn Denial if James does go for a Cryptic Command, so I'm curious to see. But Shatter on the Spell Bomb, make you discard. James can effectively counter this by just drawing a card off the Aether Spell Bomb.
Right.
Choosing instead to go for Veil of Summer. That'll give him Hexproof and all his permanents Hexproof and draw a card. Wow. Wow.
Not bad. 1 mana Cryptic Command. All right, Veil of Summer works. Hess draws. Spellbomb sticking around. Now we'll see how much is unlocked for Holland. He'll start with the Thoughtseize. Take a look at that hand that Hess has been clutching basically the whole game.
Yeah, I see a backup Oko. I'm not sure about the rest. We'll see if Hess has a response here.
Minimally, looks like a fetch down to 10.
Now what he could do is could go fetch, find Mystic Sanctuary, put Veil Summer on top of the deck, crack Spellbomb, draw a card, and then cast Veil Summer again. Has a shock to get Breeding Pool to do it. Does have 2 copies of Breeding Pool in his 75. Would put him pretty low, but he does have the Oko to potentially make some more food tokens. Oh, I'm sorry, he can't get Breeding Pool and Mystic Sanctuary. Never mind.
Right, Mystic Sanctuary is the find. And Abrupt Decay the target. That'll go on top. And Archmage's Charm countering Thoughtseize. is the attempt.
See if Holland has a fire back here. Looks like he doesn't.
He declines to fight over that. Has a pretty full grip, though. See what the follow-up will be. If you have a counterspell, there's maybe a lot of incentive to leave that up for an Urza at this point.
Ooh. Snapcaster Mage here. Gonna probably flashback Thoughtseize.
So now we'll take a look. Oko, Fatal Push, and second Archmage's Charm.
This is pretty rough to see if you're Holland. Now that Hess has found some mana, all these powerful interactive spells are effectively unlocked. There's also an Abrupt Decay on top of the deck, so Hess is covered from most angles. The Oko should pretty easily contain these Snapcaster Mages by just making 3/3s over the course of the next few turns, gaining some life if he needs to. And then Fatal Push and what was the other card?
Oko.
And the Abrupt Decay should all be pretty good here, making sure he doesn't lose to anything else in the future.
So Charm down, back over to Hess, draws that Abrupt Decay, attacks with the Elk. It's like Oko going to 7 for another food token.
Num num.
Go back over to Holland. No attacks, no blocks with Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, potential misstep from Holland. I think he wanted to double block the Elk, but realized that it would put him too far behind and for just 1 black mana from Hess with the Fatal Push. I think he wanted to get the Fatal Push out of hand, but it was just a little too costly. So minor misstep there from Holland. No attacks, no blocks is usually a pretty bad sign.
Right, here's a Death Shadow. Holland currently at 6, so that's a 7/7. Though Hess with a few answers, kind of his choice of how he wants to deal with that. Spell Bomb on the table, Fatal Push, Abrupt Decay in hand, Oko on the battlefield. Both Snapcaster Mages attacking now.
I think if you're Hess, you just let it go.
These are going upstairs. Holland going to try to ignore the Oko and close as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it's at this point, killing Oko would take more resources than killing the opponent. And that's kind of the reason why I think a lot of people have this, like, Oko fatigue. Starting on 3, there's a good chance your Oko just never dies.
Mm-hmm.
And if you spend a lot of time trying to kill it, you know, you just end up losing anyway.
You end up in this squeeze where it's like, can I kill the Oko and them? And then on the other side, can I kill them without killing the Oko?
It's pretty hard. Just gaining 3 life a turn is tough, you know.
Hess fires off that Fatal Push end step, Death Shadow down. The Snapcasters did connect, so Hess is at 6, but has an uncracked food and an active Oko.
Yeah, he might be put in this weird spot now, though, where he can choose to go for lethal. That like leaves him slightly vulnerable to Fatal Push. But with Abrupt Decay in hand, it's not going to be that scary.
Mm-hmm.
It would take some serious maneuvering for Holland to win next turn through an Abrupt Decay.
Hess was thinking about where to go with Oko, but decides to do something else first. Here is Urza, Lordhar Artificer. That resolves. Here's a Construct token. That is just more bad news for John Holland.
Yeah, and that's going to effectively invalidate both those Snapcaster Mages, the 1/4 body and the Construct. Both going to play some good defense here. And you can see the writing's basically on the wall.
Now Oko to 8. Both food are Elk. Elks are attacking for lethal.
Yeah, and the removal has to go at an Elk, otherwise you're dead. Unless he has a Snapcaster Mage number 3.
Which would be the final Snapcaster Mage.
Yep. You saw a big drop-off in Snapcaster Mages in these Death Shadow decks the moment that they started playing Mishra's Bauble again, you know. Like Grixis for a while was very spell-dense with instants and sorceries. But now with Bauble, they're a lot more... they have a lot less stuff like Serum Visions and Snapcaster Mage.
Well, I think there's also just a realization that they have to be exactly controlling enough. The more you try to play the damage yourself control deck, the more you just lose. And it's actually 2 Fatal Push from Holland, or
Dismember and a push
yeah.
takes care of both the Elks.
Dismember puts Holland to 4.
Yeah, did pay 2 for it.
But the Elks are down. But Holland's still facing down Urza plus Construct, and not to mention the Oko on 8 loyalty.
Yeah, it's at a precarious 6, but with the Urza, also has the ability to use Ether Spellbomb this turn, can even maybe bounce Urza in response to a removal spell.
Right, so Thought Scour is where Holland will start. Got a lot to do this turn, but the Thought Scour not an inspiring spot to start from. Pretty stocked graveyard already. Cycle of Street Wraith down to 2. Don't get to do that one anymore. I believe drew a fetch land. Teamer Battle Rage among the holdings. Not great with Snapcaster Mage.
Not great against Ether Spellbomb either.
Yeah. Which is active because of the Urza. Attack with 2 Snapcaster Mage, block with Construct, block with Urza. I imagine that'll seal things up, and it does. John Holland's going to concede. James Hess can win round 1 2-1 over John Holland. The Sultai Urza